welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X-Bottom, Season 3, Episode 7. I'm here with Task Force X itself, with John Economos himself.
Is that me?
Is that me? Oh.
I'm Paul. I forgot that was his name.
And Clemson Mern himself.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Sebastion. So yeah,
he's listing Peacemaker characters.
Oh yeah, because it's fading based on the thing we just watched. So
yeah,
how you guys doing? We just finished.
What about you?
Yeah, we just finished watching the State of Play. We reacted to it. That react should be going live anytime, whenever I'm able to render that video that we watched. And we're doing another offbeat episode of the X-Bottom, just focusing on that State of Play. So it might be shorter than our usual episode to kind of help our friend Paul here, that he's about to start moving. And this is going to be his last recording until in probably a week, maybe two, who knows, like what
gonna go missing. I'm pretty sure just the 1 week is enough. By the end of next week I should be settled, ready, and good to go. And I'm hoping that there's no issues with that. The only thing that would happen is if my Wi-Fi is not strong enough to do a recording.
Yes, but thankfully, like our buddy here, Sebastion, like he's turned, like he knows when to answer the bat signal. So yeah. So whenever I need help, I know I can like just light it up and he's gonna help cover for you. So yeah, you're back, Sebastion. So that's like 2 in a row now. So
yeah, for sure.
Really excited. Kind of like I mentioned in our reacts. You're so often here now that you're basically a co-host.
Oh man, glad to be here. Anytime you want me, just hit that back signal or the call machine, and I'll be there. You know, I don't know if I'm going to what is the term from Harry Potter where they warp into themselves and then
apparate.
Apparate. I don't know if I'm an apparate and to be that quick, but I will answer the call. I will answer the bell. So
with good anticipation.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, before we dive into the State of Play, this is just a reminder that this is the X-Bottom podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Thursdays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing, and TBD based on whenever Paul's new schedule may change that posting day going forward. Available in the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at anchor.fm/escape-gaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So, no games we've been playing today, and no press X for some news, because we're just gonna talk about the State of Play we just saw and whatever the hell that was. So, guys, I'll just open it out right like this. After the developer direct from Xbox, after the Nintendo Direct, we got like a week and a half ago. What even the hell was this State of Play?
I'll be honest, I'm going to be optimistic on this one. Besides the attempted coloring of my expectations by the end of it, I feel like there were at least 2, maybe 3 things that I'm like decently interested in. Some that we already knew about, granted. But I will talk more, details, but I can list at least 3 of them that I'm actually like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Let's see how that goes. And we'll see. But in comparison to something like Nintendo and Microsoft, they did bring some crazy fire for theirs. So if we had to rank it, I might have to put Sony at 3rd.
Yeah, no, it's dead last. Based on like if we're ranking like the 3 like directs from all 3 of them, it's like this is like dead last compared to, and not only just because this didn't even have a shadow drop, but that shouldn't be like an expectation. That was just something nice that the other 2 did, that it would have been nice if they had also done here. It's just kind of like also the quality of like announcements we got out of this like paled way in comparison to the other 2. And even then, like the Nintendo Direct for me was like, the nostalgia is what propped it up for me with like the Metroid thing, the Game Boy stuff, like, and then other stuff was like, since I'm not much in the Nintendo camp, I wasn't that the Xbox Developer Direct, like Hi-Fi Rush, like that propped up that whole thing, and the promise that they have the format going forward for like if they want to do stuff outside just the showcases. We had heard that apparently Sony is gonna do a legit showcase like around June or before June when E3 is gonna be in, and this is kind of like proving a point that I realized like when we saw the State of Plays last year, Paul, and also Sebastion, like the State of Plays in June and September they did were shockingly good. Like they delivered. one of them, I remember I was trying to go in as low expectations as possible, but I even think that even going that low, like it exceeded the expectations even like more, especially after we saw the showcases afterwards. Remember the Summer Game Fest, Paul, that came with nothing, but like a state of the Last of Us Part 1 revealed that it got leaked earlier in the day, so it was like a waste of 2 hours. So
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but after marinating on your words a little bit and marinating on everything we've got, I think I'm gonna hit you up with something very controversial here. I don't think this is the worst out of the three. As a matter of fact, I think if you look at which one showcased like the newest games, like not just remasters, not just ports, like for the most part, like this showcased a lot of new games that are coming within the next 2 to 3 months. I think we only have one game here that was outside of that wheelhouse. And I mean, it showcased something that was for a new hardware that they just put out. It showcased something that was like, I think, one of the most anticipated games. And it also showcased like, I think 2 or 3 announcements that people are either sleeping on or people did not know about entirely. So here's what I'll say about this. The Nintendo Direct, I think one of the biggest complaints was, where are the new titles other than Tears of the Kingdom? Like, what other new stuff did you give us? You gave us Pigman, and I think it was Dr. Layton, and I think that was it. Everything else was just a remaster or a port. Like, on the Xbox side, if Hi-Fi Rush did not come out, like, and be shadow dropped, I don't think we remember anything from that, because Redfall didn't blow anybody away. I don't think Forza did the job of selling people who wasn't already going to play that game because they're racing enthusiasts about that game. Minecraft Legends, the audience that it has was already going to have in general. So I'm like, if I'm looking at like which showcase probably showed the most titles to where like they got new people in and not just people who are already going to play that title, I think you look at it with a little bit of a different lens on what this accomplished versus some of those other two.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said about kind of like the objective way of looking at things and the way some of these made it feel. Yeah, I think in an objective way, you have a point with a little bit of the state of play. When it comes to pop, this didn't pop.
No, it didn't.
This didn't pop. The other two did. And sometimes you need like, ironically, sometimes you need something to pop more than just like show some things. And I feel like that's where the state of play kind of like comes in third in the other ones, but not to say there wasn't some good in this, and we can kind of go over this like just real quick, because it was 45 minutes with 15 minutes dedicated to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which by the way they said that they were going to show the 5 PSVR games, and they said there were going to be new looks at games from third party, and they said it was going to be 45 minutes. So they kicked us off the right way, how they needed to do it, like just with getting the PSVR stuff out of the way with the Foglands, that like cowboy style shooter we saw that's coming out later this year. Then we got Green Hell, that was that game that I thought was like, oh, are they showcasing Horizon Forbidden West again? And then until we saw a little bit more, it's like, oh no, it's not that. It has a little bit of the forest in it. Also coming out
sci-fi stealth game, yeah.
Yes, so coming out also later in 2023. Synapse, probably the coolest looking for me of the things that they showed from PSVR. That's also going to come out later this year, and also made on the Dreams tool, apparently, because I had Dreams in the thing. Journey to the Foundation, that's the thing that Paul, you recognize. And they said at the beginning it was like based on like a novel. So it's based on that. You said it was Star Wars. It was funny because they mentioned Empire, which is funny.
Yeah. Right at the start when they said the Empire, I went, is this Star Wars?
I know. Yeah, and then Before Your Eyes, the blinking game that's been already in MetaQuest and other stuff. That one had a date of March 10th, so that's gonna be like a launch window game for PSVR. Then for us, Paul, we got the launch trailer for Destiny 2 Lightfall. It's like at this point, like we're already sold. Like we bought the $100 edition back in August with the showcase, so this is just a way to prime ourselves up for the next big time for Destiny. Tekia finally got re-shown at one of these and finally got a date for March 21st, and it's gonna be the new Stray, gonna be the new indie launched in the PS Extra / Premium service. They also kind of teased the March lineup ahead of time for PS Plus, normal, and the
A stacked lineup for games that most people like either forgotten about, or like games that really needed a boost.
yeah. So for example, like if you're just paying for the essential, like $10 a month, $60 a year, PS Plus, Battlefield 2042 is gonna be there. Like it's been on Game Pass since it was added to EA Play, so that got a boost of players there. This might give it a boost. Like Battlefield 2042, Paul knows is like one of the biggest tragedies of this generation, and just like forever sullied the Battlefield name after.
And for those that don't know, they reintroduced all the original classes and revamped entirely how the whole hero nonsense works. So they just need people to play the game essentially now.
Yes. EA's been doing good stuff. I don't know what happened with Battlefield. It's like it stands out more, like how much they messed up with Battlefield, but considering how good everything around it has been. So that's gonna be there. It's a fine shooter. Now that it doesn't the 300. Remember the 300 fixes within like the first 2 weeks, Paul?
It was bad. There's so much bad stuff going on in that game.
I'll never forget it. Minecraft Dungeons makes sense. Minecraft Legends is coming soon, and that's going to be like another Xbox multi-platform game. So, of course, they're going to want to tee up the new release with like this old one. And Code Vein, the Souls-like vampire game that I always thought looked... It's always been my wish list, ironically, but I just never like pulled the trigger because I got soulsed out. Last year, I put it in the wish list when I was like...
You've been through a lot of Souls games, my dude.
Way too many. And then if you're also in the extra catalog... Other than Tekken, you're gonna get a couple more Ubisoft games. So Rainbow Six Extraction, the long forgotten shooter from early last year, is gonna be added to the service. That launched on Game Pass also, so this is just like adding parity and subscriptions now. Immortals Phoenix Rising, the best of the three Ubisoft launch games for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. When you compare it to like Valhalla and Watch Dogs Legion, that got like criminally overlooked by releasing that December, is gonna come. It was already on Game Pass also, now getting parity with in the subscriptions with PS Plus. More people need to play Immortals, even if it has Ubisoft DNA in it. Like it's still a really good game. I have to go back and beat it. Ghostwire Tokyo, the surprisingly good like Avatar horror game, first person adventure from last year. Like I can imagine they're trying to ride the wave of the high sentiment Hi-Fi Rush created with when it comes to Tango. So putting it in this description makes sense. And I also think I know why it's going to be here, because just like Deathloop, this is going to come into Xbox. This is going to be coming to Xbox next month because
it's going to be on Game Pass probably.
Yeah, because of the full year, the 1 year exclusivity that they have for that game. It's going to be done. And when that happened with Deathloop, it launched immediately on Game Pass. So they're just putting it in both. And Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, the really great like update for Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy. So
phenomenal way to play Lost Legacy if you haven't played it already, by the way.
Yeah, Lost Legacy, super good. I'm glad what like Paul got to like revisit it for the first time last year, and remember that because you had such a low opinion of Lost Legacy, I remember, and I did too. And replaying it was like a reminder, like why would we had a lower opinion of this? This is great. So,
one of the better Uncharted games in my opinion. Agreed. I'm like, it's very tight, very concise. I like Nadine and Chloe, like everything they do in that game purpose into it. I like the game. I really think it's one of the more underrated PlayStation exclusives that we've gotten in the last decade.
Yeah, and one that has gotten better with age. Like the more time has like passed by, like you see like I think the IGN top list. God damn it.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, to further that thought while he's muted, I think this is everything people liked about Uncharted 4, just concise and like put on a smaller scale, like schedule kind of minimized a little bit, and then like they added a couple of things here and there, and then the dialogue in that game is like, oh, so good.
The way they fleshed out those both characters, which were already, I feel, fan favorites, but one of which just kind of got left by the wayside in Uncharted 3. Very like unceremonious departure, and then
completely gone in the fourth game,
which was just trash personally. But I understand they were probably that's why, because they were making a DLC that became its own game, whatever. We all know the story. But for Nadine to get her whole character arc, which we were always thinking, at least I was throughout all of Uncharted 4, going, wow, this is a really fleshed out character. I'd like to see what happened to her. Why is she here? She's not even really a villain. And I love how she just decides to bounce out of the story as well, because she's like, yeah, you know what, this is crazy, all of you are crazy, I'm leaving. It's like she was in a completely different storyline, a genre of story at least, and I'm glad that she got her own day.
It humanized her, and on top of that, like how Sebastion was saying, that it's like such a concise game. It's like it brought the spectacle that Uncharted 4 like was lacking in it a little bit, because Uncharted 4 was such a big game also, but it didn't have the level of spectacle that came to define that series in service of them closing off the story. So to me, those games complement each other so well. Uncharted 4 has a really great story. Uncharted Lost Legacy is just the better game. And like I was saying before, the chainsaw interrupted me. Lost Legacy is like ranked higher than Uncharted 4 in many like top 10 lists, like top PS4 exclusive lists, which is crazy. But
I think if I were going back to play one of those two, I'd probably pick Lost Legacy over Uncharted 4, to be honest.
Because it's just tighter. Something's just bad because Uncharted 4 you have to like build the excitement for that one. It's like you have to build for it. You don't have to build on that for Lost Legacy. So I'm excited that they get to experience that. Nathan Drake collection was also ready in the collections. So now the entire Uncharted saga, it's now on PS Plus. So
now we just needed it to be remastered.
No, they look fine still.
1 and 2 still kind of play a little rough. I would love to see those.
2 still plays really good.
You think 2 plays good?
I played them all last year. I did a whole Naughty Dog. Paul remembers this. I played all the Naughty Dog games last year because I was going to do a write-up for them that completely escaped me. So
I would love to see what Blue Point can do with like a remake of those.
It'd be good, especially with the first game. So Enhanced Humanity is it's the next game by the people that made Tetris Effect and Res Infinite. Very different looking from the other games, but still kind of have that music synthesis that defines their games, and kind of like unique looking stuff. More of a puzzle game than the other ones, but still like Tetris is technically a puzzle game. Like you just have to like arrange a few things.
It's definitely a puzzle.
Yeah,
exactly. I was about to say it is the puzzle game.
Exactly. So it's like it's not quite that, but still kind of like in that vibe. So yeah, that's out on May 2023, and a limited time demo is out today. So we can try
I love the creation tool that they showed off. The fact that people can create their own games and let other people try their own puzzles. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, and the PSVR 2 mode, which makes sense because Tetris Effect was PSVR enabled, and also Res Infinite. I would argue those two are some of the best PSVR games.
Yeah,
so, it vibes. Like I played Tetris Effect in VR with headphones on. You feel like you've been transported somewhere else, like you entered the Matrix with that one. Furry game, Goodbye Volcano High, out June 15th. It's been a long time coming.
Technically, I would clarify it's a scaly game.
I would say scaly. You know, they're all dinosaurs. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll still call them furries because I don't think there's a scaly movement like the furry.
There is actually that is a thing. That is its own deal. But yeah,
and I learned about bronies also. That's why I'm not surprised.
For somebody who's as just supremely corrupted as you are, Alejandro, you're surprisingly innocent to the many terrible sides of the internet.
The thing is that I'm happy being as corrupted in the ways that I'm corrupted, Paul, in order to like disturb you. So
yeah.
They're called scalies?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
You have corrupted Sebastion now.
Wow.
I just know of it because of memes, honestly. Yeah. So anyway, dinosaur game, visual novel style, with very well animated,
with Rith and stuff.
Yeah.
It's writer and advocate of child pornography, but let's see.
I need to look that up now again because I don't even trust myself. For anybody that doesn't know, apparently I told Alejandro that after the announcement trailer like 2 years ago, that was the year I got married. I don't remember any of that year.
It was the year it was the year the lockdowns fall and the pandemic.
Maybe it happened. Maybe it was clarified later on. Go look it up if y'all are interested in. I'd love to find out what the truth is. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like that came out and then that game went dormant. So maybe they kicked her off the project. Who knows? So yeah, that's coming out in June, and that Sebastian's very excited for the Scalies, as he mentioned in our reacts.
Kate Gray, the writer of Goodbye Volcano High, was the same writer who posted an article on Kotaku with pictures of virtual CP. One of those pics was of Harry Potter's character Hermione Granger, based off the likeness of the child actress Emma Watson that was playing her. While she did not create the pictures, she did signal boost them. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that, and I deeply regret it. It is unclear if Katie Gray is still a part of the project to this day. Is an article I just read that came out as of 5 minutes ago.
I'm glad that we got that clarified for sure, but apparently I was not crazy.
Yeah, you were not crazy.
Wow, what a shocking twist that is.
But looking at I did a little investigative journalism here, and looking at the
writer's credits.
The writer's credits and the LinkedIn and all that for the writing crew for this game. It is said that Paula Rogers is now a part, like, head writer. So I don't necessarily think Katie Gray is a part of that project.
So that explains why this got delayed from original. So they probably had to like bring in someone in, like try to like change the story enough to like give it a new credit in light of that. So good to know. Yeah. I'm a little bit more curious about this compared to like how I knew when your original told me that 3 years ago, Paul. Thanks for that, Sebastion. So then we went to the low point of the state of play. Naruto Boruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Connections coming on 2023. A way too long extended look at this thing. That's when like I think the pacing completely like it had a nice pace at that point. And if you care about Naruto, especially this version of Naruto, I think it'll look more like that, right, Paul? You played this.
Yeah, it's literally the same game. Mm-hmm. Credit to them for creating such a strong art style that it looks timeless. Mm-hmm. Because
it's old.
You can't tell. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's from like the PS3 360 eras. But they're collecting all of the games, but they already had a collection of all the games. So this almost feels a little redundant, but as we had said during the reaction, my theory is that because it's also an online fighting game, they wanted to just put everything together and make it easier for people to find matchmaking, continue to play with their friends, all that stuff. But maybe just check a box to say, hey, they put out another game this year. Who knows? Either way, it seems a little bit lazy in some ways, but that's as somebody who is a little tired of the played out method of Naruto games. Anyway.
Yeah, it was just like spent a little too much time on it. Like, if I'm perfectly honest, like, it could have been a much quicker trailer.
I would have liked more time on the follow-up game to that. But,
Baldur's Gate 3. I would say this is probably like the biggest game announcement of this, because this has just been on PC and at a point in time, Stadia. It was so funny that it was only on PC and Stadia for so long.
Of all things.
Yeah, of all things. Well, it was like in early access.
You know, if I was curating this state of play, I would probably X out Naruto completely and put another indie game in there, because like I feel like when this showcase was at its strongest, it was with like the VR games that we didn't know about, and then the indie games that we kind of like either knew about and wanted to see more of or didn't know about at all. So I would probably say find a more strong indie game to display, and I think that would have probably like at least made the pacing and everything like that kind of keep flowing, you know?
100%. And then after that we got Wayfinder, which this was like the MMO action game that was like revealed back at the Game Awards last year, that has like this Fortnite style aesthetic, but it's like more PvE. And the big thing is that they announced a beta is coming out literally the same day as Destiny 2 Lightfall. So great job, guys. So then we went to like more Capcom always has to feature in a state of play. They're just like buddies. We got 3 more character showcases for Street Fighter 6. Zangief, Lily, and Cammy. And Paul was really happy that Cammy was differently dressed. Let's just putting it out there.
I do appreciate an updated design after about 20 years, granted.
Yeah. More sensitive to the times.
My issues aside with the way female characters are presented in media sometimes, I do like when games get updated designs, especially for fighting games. It's like part of the fun is seeing how designers can make a new character with their own stuff, whether or not it's problematic in some ways.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this one, Sebastion? On the Street Fighter?
Not a lick. I will probably not be playing this. I'm not a huge fighting game kind of person, so probably not be playing this. But shout out to all those people who will be playing this. Shout out to all the Evo people who compete and knock each other's blocks off with this. I know it's a big game. It's just doesn't speak to me on a personal level. But
Yeah.
I like the unveil of like some of the new characters and some of the movesets. So
yeah,
looks good.
The lead ups to Street Fighter games are always fun because of the character showcase. Because I remember they did the same thing with 5. So. And then the next one, they showed a little bit more of the Resident Evil 4 remake, which just recently wrapped up a full month-long cover story over at Game Informer, and now IGN is doing an IGN First on it. So it's funny how it's like it's being overexposed a little bit, I would say. It's still looking really good. I would say this, Paul. You probably agree with me with this.
Yeah.
It feels like the shockingly good Dead Space remake has kind of like deflated a little bit of the excitement for this one.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
There's a few things about it, just visually, that I'm not a huge fan on. All the characters' hair is really glossy and like reflective looking. I don't like that at all. And it looks like it's an intentional decision rather than just a visual issue, because they're very clearly prominently featuring it. Like it's like, oh, look how good this looks, and I'm like, I don't know, buddy. But yeah, as far as like mechanically, Dead Space Remake came in and freaking cleaned the board, knocked the papers off the desk, and said, yeah, what you gonna do about it? I don't know if this is going to hold the candle to that. However, because of how beloved Resident Evil 4 is anyway, I think the quality of life, gameplay changes and stuff are still going to shine enough, because this is like the game that people really know in the horror action genre.
And not only that, it's like I've played Resident Evil 4 every year as like its original version. Like I know that game at heart. So much of this looks so different, but I recognize so many sequences from it. And I know it's gonna be a better version of that game. It's just that the Dead Space remake is like, it's what we were talking about, Sebastion, like when we were talking about most anticipated games, the surprise factor of things, how much that helps. Like when something just completely surprises you. And Dead Space was not even remotely close to any of us like being like a most anticipated thing when we talked about it earlier in the year. And EA shocked everyone, be like, no, we can actually do really damn good remakes. So it's like RE4 is not gonna easily walk away clean like as the victor with this. Now it feels like I look at it and I'm like, it looks good, but man, it's like I will have to feel it and see if it's like it gives you the same feeling. Even though Paul finished Dead Space remake, I haven't finished it, but just in what I've seen of it, it's like the new bar has been set already early. So, and this one is like shows that it's still gonna be really good, but the big question is, will Resident Evil 4 remake be in the all-time favorite conversation like its original game was? That's kind of like that. That's what makes me curious about that one. But they announced a special demo. I wish it had been like a shadow drop, an early shadow drop. It would have been cool, because when are they gonna drop that demo? Because we're literally a month away from this game. It's like this would have been the moment to drop that demo, I would say. So, and then the big showstopper, literally, Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League finally showcased the gameplay. First time, because we have seen glimpses of it at the Game Awards 2021, like it looked like a little bit like Sunset Overdrive back then, and now we got to see it. It looked more like Paul said, it's like had a very Crackdown feel, but it like if you need to like paint the what a live service co-op shooter is like, look at this game. Take it away.
You want to start, Paul? Because I'm gonna go ham on this one.
All right, let me try to do some
put the positive vibes, Paul.
Work. Yeah, let's see what I can do about this. Oh boy. Yeah. All right. So with the many comparisons that are going to be brought up about it from many people along the internet, to many other unsuccessful games, and many issues with live service models aside, one of the many things that people crave is good platforming and traversal in open world games. And I would dare say that Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League is going to have very good traversal in theory, because it seems that it's very focused on giving that to you from the start. It is not locking it behind 10 separate side missions to give you a separate, much easier method of traversal a la Gotham Knights. It seems that everybody has a very distinct style, distinct method of going about their gameplay, so it's going to be interesting to jump from one character to the next. So hopefully, even if one character becomes a little stale, you can kind of switch things up a little bit. It seems like the pacing is frenetic. It is action-packed. It is very entertaining to watch and fly through different areas which are very built verticality-wise. So it's not just going to be you running through streets or flying through streets or jumping on top of a building, then dropping back down off the building, meaning that the world is pretty well designed, I would say. It's going to be interesting to run through Metropolis, and the voice work seems pretty solid overall. Whether or not the characters are being represented the best way, I do feel like the performances are strong. The production value is pretty great, and I'm curious to see where they go with the rest of this universe that they have established is connected to Batman Arkham Knight, set 5 years after said game. And yeah, that's about all I can give positively wise. And Sebastion, why don't you tell us what several people are going to be thinking alongside what you and I talked about already?
All right, so where to begin? I think there's a fact that I don't necessarily know if this game has a core identity, and I feel like that is going to bother a lot of people. I think that I think three main takeaways from all this, and is that first off, I don't know that the narrative is going to make sense in the world that's already established in the DC world. Brainiac is not a type of person who plays with his food. He is a very much go for the kill type of villain in DC, and he's straight to the chase. I mean, this is a villain that has a menagerie of all the planets that he's absorbed and captured. He didn't go down to those planets, play with the people around him. He just basically dismantled those planets, shrunk them down, and then captured them and went on to the next. He's very methodical, and I think a lot of people are going to be thrown off that if he's very different than what he is in the comics, because I think like that doesn't seem canonically like what we would expect from Brainiac. And then two, I don't necessarily know if all these like heroes are there in Metropolis all together, if it's going to feel any form of realistic that we're able to take down one of these gods, much less all of them at that point. And then I think like to wrap it all up, I feel like we're getting Marvel's Avengers vibes. I feel like we're also getting a little bit of like Crackdown vibes from this game, to where like the enemies all look the same. Like we had maybe like 3 or 4 enemies that they displayed throughout that whole thing. They all look the same. We're also getting that almost that old PS4 kind of like gameplay objectives, to where like, hey, take down that one like turret. Hey, you have to take that down. And I bet we didn't see it in this trailer, but it's almost giving me that same kind of vibes of when you had to like wait at a certain circle in the map and like, hey, defend this point until this objective is done. And you know what I'm talking about, like that defend kind of like obstacles, the objectives that you have to do in video games. I get that vibe from it, and nothing that I saw in this made me think like that's a $70 game. That is a day one buy, and that's a game that's going to be around past a year. I everything I saw about this game gave me Marvel's Avengers vibes, Crackdown vibes, a little bit of Fortnite vibes, and Fortnite is the only vibe that I got from that, to where I look at that game and go like, oh, that's the success story. That's where you drew some of that parallels from, because every other game that I mentioned, absolutely dead. And I hate to say this, but I had Skull and Bones as my flop of the year whenever I thought about the beginning of the year. But Skull and Bones probably didn't have a bigger budget as this game did. This game might be the biggest flop of 2023.
Bold words.
It's rough because from the three of you, I'm the live service guy. I have like, Paul knows this. Like the amount of hours that I dedicated to Marvel's Avengers, knowing that a lot of the bad parts of that game are bad, is like, I have 200 plus hours on that. I dedicated 3,000 hours to Destiny 2. Like, I know what this genre, like the ways that this kind of genre like speaks to me and can like just like send me down like a very brain dead brain dead zone where I can just play that, listen to podcasts, and spend time and enjoy myself. And from what I saw from that game, it's like it hits all those hallmarks of things that I played in that genre. That I'm like, I played this, I know I could enjoy this. When I look at it holistically, think about it this way: you look at this, it's a game from Rocksteady. It's in Metropolis. It has Brainiac, Lex Luthor. It contains Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, the Justice League, a continuation in the Arkhamverse. But you play as the Suicide Squad.
Yep.
In a live service co-op shooter. Paul, this is the biggest case of blue balls that I have ever seen in my life. Like, now that I've actually like seen the game and really think about like the situation of what I see, especially because here's the worst part to me is like, I see the budget on screen in some of those cutscenes. They look great.
Yep.
They absolutely look great. I like how that city looks.
Yep.
It's like, just thinking like what could have been is like what makes it so frustrating.
We have flying in the game. Why couldn't we just play as the Justice League fighting Brainiac, guys?
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, it burns me up. I don't want to, because it's a very subjective side of this. Because everyone thinks it's so much easier to just go the like, oh, we need to make everybody you play as like balanced because it's going to be like a live service thing, and gotta make sure it works right. But it's PvE exclusively. Secondly, the fact that like all the stuff that you put in works perfectly to be still fighting evil, and you've already clarified that the Justice League is just like being possessed against their will, and like you're still working with the good guys. Like in universe, wouldn't Amanda Waller find anybody else besides these people?
Not only that, Paul, can you imagine the scenario where it's like it's still the same, like they get controlled, but you play as one of the Justice League members, like
play
one
as
of
Wonder
them.
Woman, the one that's not controlled right now.
And then you keep unlocking them. They're the boss fights, and then they become like the big thing that goes into the thing.
Like Hi-Fi Rush it. You beat them, and then they could kind of like turn into new characters you could use. We created a better game in about 3 minutes than all of that.
Yeah. So you know Greg Miller, right, Sebastion?
Yeah, he probably is like, this could have been a Superman game.
No, he's like, what a monkey paw situation for your boy Greg Miller.
Yeah.
It's like, because like, if you're like a DC super fan like he is, it's like, you look at that, it's like so unfortunate that especially when you can imagine, like, especially when we saw the thing when Wonder Woman was like interrogating Flash, like with the thing, it's like when I looked at that, I was like, fuck. I was like, literally, that's how I felt, because like I could see like what this could have been like with the Suicide Squad. Imagine kind of like just a side characters, or you're just kind of there, like maybe like helping you with
that would have been great. Like having them as side characters would have been a very interesting thing. I mean, that's what they did with the Arkham series, and then you have like a little blurb that explains who they are and what their deal is. I know this was made out of the popularity of that whole situation, and they saw part of their IP going really crazy with the popularity, and it's just very unfortunate that it took this long to make it. But the reality is that people have already started to move past the Suicide Squad as a concept, and it's now found its niche, but it's no longer the big like phenom that I think they thought it was going to be. And they are limiting themselves constantly by the pantheon that they have, and they don't think that people are going to respond well to it, so they hamstring themselves and go with characters that they think they're able to control better or something. Maybe it's like they have less gravitas to them, so they can't go with some of the heavier hitters. But it frustrates me because they're constantly doing that. They did it with not just this, but something like Young Justice. They've done it with a lot of other characters where like you get these really popular ones, and then they just say, okay, we're going to focus on completely different, very lower tier characters and spend all of our time and focus on these, as opposed to the ones that everybody else wants us to focus on.
Imagine if this was Justice League Dark.
The same thing happens, but it's like supernatural, and then it's John Constantine and Zatanna and all of that crew doing the same nonsense, but like once again, that's such an untapped potential outside of like little animated videos, and barely touched on in that one Black Adam movie that nobody seems to want to talk about.
No, I mean, but imagine
Uh,
if this was Justice League Dark, to where like you got to play as Zatanna, Constantine, Swamp Thing, and maybe the Gray Ghost or different things like that. It's like, and you were facing, instead of Brainiac, you were facing like Trigon, and
yeah,
and instead of guns, you actually had powers and such like that, where it
which
was
works.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would have been not necessarily a smash hit, but a bigger hit than this is going to be.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like what I kind of alluded to in our react. It's like it's clear that the reason why they picked the Suicide Squad, god damn it.
Yeah,
I'm guessing you were going to say this because of the movie's popularity and the shooting, because that's easier to probably program, which is accurate in a way, because when you get into the
and the loot,
yeah, you're right, the looter shooter, literally, because it's harder probably to do that for superpowers. However, there's a game that does that called Destiny, that does do powers and the cosmetics around them fairly well. I know, I can see your face, and I know it's still built heavily around the guns. I just wanted to take a cheap shot at him about it, because I feel like the power system can be done well in a looter shooter aspect, taking away a little bit of the shooter and maybe kind of working with that.
I think with Marvelous Avengers, we saw like the problem of trying to do like a looter shooter with like superpower characters.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if this is the worst licensed game this year as well? A licensed game came from Rocksteady might be the worst licensed game of the year.
I'm curious to think, because I'm drawing a blank. What are some of the other licensed games that are coming out right now?
Hogwarts Legacy, Star Wars. You also got Spider-Man at the end of the year.
That's very true. I could definitely see that. I mean, at the end of last year, I think, when we were talking about all of this, I don't remember which one of us it was to talk about it, but
it was in our chat. We were talking about the potential that Hogwarts Legacy was going to be the WB game that was going to be better from like their slate.
And it'll definitely look better and probably perform better than Gotham Knights, but I guess we'll see, because there was a lot of love in Gotham Knights, and there was a lot of strength to its emotional beats, and I wonder if that's going to kind of fall flat or ring hollow in Suicide Squad. I'm sure they're going to shoot for it. They're going to try, and I'm sure the power of the performances is going to help, especially with it being Kevin Conroy's last role as Batman.
Yeah, it's like that adds the extra pain to the weight of what this game is. Like when you look at it and when you think of the alternate universe scenario of what this could have been. And I feel right now, like I kind of mentioned, is like this is definitely a wait and see to hear what people say when they get hands on with it.
True.
And this is because here's the reality of the situation. If you're a live service game, how fun you are will determine your longevity. Like Avengers had that weird middle spot that they had solid combat when you were in campaign that didn't translate at all to like a bullet sponge enemies in live service. Like it completely broke down there, and that's why like that game had no longevity. So depending on how fun it is to play, that could like at least try to like salvage this a little bit. But yeah, this could be the weakest of the licensed games this year. It's like, especially just on live service alone, it's like a live service is like such an albatross that this is the dangers of trend chasing. I can bet that they saw that the Suicide Squad DC was pushing it hard when they were with the David Ayer movie from 2016, that horrendous mess, when they were pushing it, and it seemed like it was going to be successful. Here's the thing, that movie was successful box office wise. It was a disaster critical wise that completely soiled the Suicide Squad for a long time until James Gunn came in and reformed it. And it's just like so unfortunate that we know that Rocksteady is what they're capable of. The Arkham games are such masterpieces, all three of them. I don't care what people say about the Bat Tank on Night. Like the rest of that package to me is like elevated with the storytelling, the production value, like just the tiny attention to detail that, like, if you're like a DC fan, like you see so many references to the Justice League also in Arkham Knight.
Absolutely.
And like there was like voice calls from Lex Luthor, so many like mentions of Metropolis. Everyone was thinking that Superman was gonna be like the next big thing that they were gonna do, and I hate to think that that was exactly what was gonna happen. And then because it's like they built Metropolis, Paul. They built a Metropolis with all this Superman imagery, and that then they were forced to trend chase because they saw that, and rejigger whatever they were working on, like if they were actually working on a Superman game, into this co-op shooter that has flying around that looks fun. And I tell you this because I just recently finished all the Infamous games again. Give me great mobility in an open world and I'm there. Like that adds so much to me. And like why Spider-Man 2018 and Miles Morales are so good? Mobility. That's what made, because those games are just Ubisoft games, but the way the sense of movement and fun they have transcends that. If the sense of movement of this like actually feels good in the stick, and the combat can be fun in a third-person shooter kind of way that you can have fun with friends and all that, I can see there can be some fun to be had here. But it will always have the dark cloud. This game will always have the dark cloud of, damn it, it's like I cannot believe that such a talented developer like that we know could have made such a great superhero game with other stuff focus on the Justice League.
Yeah, I one thing that I wanted to that kind of popped into my head about all this is imagine if Kevin Conroy's Batman dies during the course of this game.
I think they probably, even if he did, they probably deviated from that.
I have a feeling, like, I knew it would have predated it by a lot, obviously, but I mean, it is called Kills the Justice League. I wonder how literal they're going to be with that, or if they're going to kind of subvert it and, oh wait, we actually beat it and we saved them all, woohoo. I have a feeling there's going to be like at least one casualty to like give the stakes, you know. But I have a feeling that at least a few of them are going to walk out of that. As far as what we've actually been talking about, yeah, I think I agree with everything here. And it's really going to matter on the live service elements, how popular it ends up being. And the fact that we established that it's only 2 weeks after Tears of the Kingdom comes out is going to severely hamper it. So unless they understand that, like the investors understand that they're not going to get an immediate return on their investment at release, they may try to pull the plug too early, in which case they're going to lose all of this. But if they can hold out and just keep pushing money into that concept until after people are finished with other better games, they might have something here, especially if they do like the added playable characters and other things that are actually decent and are enough to get people on their side. I mean, this is WB. They could have crossover characters for all we know. You could have Hellboy show up. I mean, like, you could do all of the stuff from all the NetherRealm style Mortal Kombat situation and just kind of have it flow if you really want to. Or you could even have a Justice League Dark expansion pass or something like that. There's a chance that this could be a blueprint for something really strong. But then we also said that about Halo Infinite. And that's what all I have to say about that one.
Yeah, it's like, to me, what also I say, they're still gonna keep like supporting this game, is like, then that pushes away even further whatever new other game they could even make. That's what makes it sadder. Especially that's always kind of like the monkey paw scenario of having a great developer be stuck in live service. It's like they are in the, unless they shut your game out, it's like they're in the business of making it work and supporting it long term. And with this being 8 years in development, how much do they need to like get a return on investment?
Yeah, it's going to be rough. I am wondering though if like developers now, and this might be a little hopeful because I'm not a live service person, but there are some people who are, and I want the best for every single gamer fandom. But like, if this fails, I'd wonder if that's the death's door for like all the game developers right now to go, okay, live service is not what people want right now, and completely pivot from that model. I mean, obviously there's still going to be the Fortnites of the world and different things like that, but like and when this game was in development, it was like the great flux of live service games where they were just starting, and now we're six years into that, and I think the world is in a completely different space to where like, okay, people are now, based on the last 2 years, people are going to see like the biggest selling games are going to be Elden Ring, God of War, Ragnarok, probably Spider-Man this year, and then Tears of the Kingdom. And they're probably going to be like, okay, well, now the next games up that we needed to be developing are going to be like these expansive or very concise single player games again, you know?
Absolutely. And
That's the hope.
Andre, you would tell me this for sure. Sorry, I got totally distracted. Work is trying to deal with me. But the idea that the live service bubble has kind of popped is something that you and I have kind of covered recently. What was it? Several games recently got shut down.
Yeah,
Knockout City
was one of them.
Like
Crossfire
several
X,
others all across the board.
And something that I have to notice about those ones is like those were obviously gonna die because, like for example, Knockout City launched in the wrong way. Like it needed to be free to play from the start. It launched like as a paid game that eventually became like free. So of course that was not gonna last. And there were others that were just straight up bad. But it feels like the live service bubble is like either close to bursting or it has already bursted. In that these are games that require people to treat them like full-time jobs. And at a certain point, it's like some people will latch to one, usually the first one that gives them the taste, and stop there. To me, that was Destiny. I tried many times with other ones that came into the ring. The Division, I gave it a first shot. They didn't properly like set it up for long-term success. I bounced. Division 2 launched way better with like more like content at launch and like the systems actually working better. Still didn't have the long-term support that I needed. I bounced. Anthem had nothing. I bounced. Avengers was copium for like two straight years, at least until Spider-Man launched. After that, like the reality finally popped for me. It's like that one, like it helped that it's like when it comes to comic book properties, when it comes to superheroes and all that, there's just something about these properties that you just want to give them the best shot and like you stay with them longer than they deserve. That's what happened to me with Avengers, but with them shutting that game off, like not even completing their plans that they were building with Avengers, they were building towards like a climactic story of a Kree invasion with Captain Marvel. That was like peppered throughout like all the story details that they expanded upon. The game failed. That's never gonna happen. Now the game's gonna be delisted like in 3 months. It's like if you didn't own it, like you won't be able to experience it anymore. It's like even though the campaign of that game was pretty solid, if that only had been the game.
If I was them, I would just re-release the campaign and then let's just re-release the campaign and let that be like a free campaign that they give out as, and I almost call it like a ode to Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah, especially because there's nothing online about it.
No.
Like, literally, there's nothing online about the campaign about Marvel's Avengers. Like Marvel's Avengers was the clear example for me that game was in development before Destiny blew up.
No,
it's so clear that they tacked on that after the fact.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why I said I just like take the little bit of work that it would take to just strip out and release the campaign as its own like online SKU is because like you can use it as a test bed. If that campaign does well, then you know where to go with your next game. You know, like I think that's a good test for them. But it's also like we were mentioning live service games, Multiverses, the news of it falling under 1,000 players.
Yeah, like losing 99% of its player base after being like the big thing. The surprise big thing last summer.
Yeah, so I think it's I don't know where we are in gaming right now, but it seems like that we are crossed that bridge to where like live service isn't the thing anymore.
Yeah, a big thing to notice about Multiverses though, they haven't updated that game in so damn long. That's why it dropped. So and that's the problem with live service. If you're gonna do a live service game, you have to have the pipeline ready. You have to have like your content for the next month has to be ready there to give it to your player base. Once they're done with like the base content that you give them, you have to like have like keep doing like live streams telling them this is what the next year or the next 3 months are gonna give you. No one that does live service games has gotten into that flow. Destiny eventually got there. It took them years. And the fact that it was the only thing that they were working on and they put their money where their mouth is, and that's why like Destiny 2 is such a successful live service in that area. That's not the Fortnites. That is much easier to maintain because it's just a mode that they're just supporting with skins and all of that. But
you can push that some with fighting games specifically because there's much less to actually give them, but because of the nature of the kind of fighting game it is, you kind of it's like a middle ground. You don't have to put out as much as something like Bungie does every week where they have more information on it, but at the same time you can't just go several months without saying anything or even updating or balancing or kind of working things out. There has to be talk at some point.
And I think also you look at that game and what it was going for. That's a Super Smash Brothers clone. Yeah. You have to either give us a live feed or you got to come out giving us just as much content as Super Smash Brothers. If you're not going to do either of those things, you're dead on arrival.
And the thing that Smash Brothers was like really smart about was like their character passes. They didn't tell you what was there. They just told you, you buy this character passes, this is how many characters you can expect. We're not going to tell you exactly when. Maybe we're going to give you like a time frame, but there's going to be a character that's going to be dropping. And that kept that game alive for a while, even though they were not giving you a character every month.
Yeah,
but this is the cadence.
Yeah, and you also have like if Super Smash Brothers were announced like a new Super Smash Brothers that coming out next month, I guarantee you it's probably going to have more than like 7-8 characters in that, like to start off with. Yeah. It's one of those things.
That was like I almost want to say because of the sequels and because they have that clout that they can pull, because that's like their main thing. They can put out something like 50 to 70 characters, but I guess because of maybe the engine or the nature of it, I would think if they made a sequel to Multiverses, that would be their big moment to roll out a bunch of characters or some big expansion after that point, because I think they were still figuring out what worked and what didn't, because I feel like in the base game there are a few things that really weren't great that needed to be fixed. I feel like they tried to push things a little too far.
The Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League support cross-platform play for online co-op. Yes, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League will support full cross-platform play for online co-op. Is an internet connection required to play Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? Yes, an internet connection is required to play Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League solo or via online co-op. Game dead on arrival. There it is.
Yikes.
Yeah, because it's like whenever this game gets killed, it's like, oh.
Truthfully, I think we talked about it as well, where like the really difficult situation of blending always online requirements versus having a game fully available in your hands is starting to pass away, because it's getting harder and harder to fit an entire game into, like, say, a disc for instance. Plus the fact that it's a literal live service game is going to probably demand your focus no matter what. Like, I think they are trying to do like with Destiny, where you have to be always online even if you play by yourself. But also
that's the one thing that I'm like, shockingly, I'm gonna give the props to Avengers for. From the very beginning, that was not an always online game. Like, you can play that game solo offline, like at least like its campaign. It's if you're doing the Avengers Initiative, like live service stuff, that's what requires you to be online. But at least it has an element that can be played like solo, and could do like the thing that Sebastion was suggesting. But this is like Redfall is a game that you can play single player, but it's also always online. Now this is like that the problem with this, that games that are clearly going to fail is like, then the longevity. And as much as Gotham Knights may suck, that game can be played fully offline at the very least. It's like, at least they definitely, it was gonna be a live service. It's clear based on the million currencies that game was gonna have, how much grinding it was requiring you to do to unlock basic stuff. That's basically the kind of carrot from a live service. At the very least, like, they made it offline so that anyone can like discover it way down in the garbage bin when it's like $5 down there and play it and at least get to experience it. Like, Suicide Squad now is like in that point where if no online connection, if this fails and then they shut the servers off, whoo, goodbye to this. So,
yeah, true.
Man, it's like, I wish I was more like, here's the thing, like, it's like I wish I was more excited for it. It's like, I wish they had like moved the needle more towards excitement. I didn't hate what I saw. I hate that I was left indifferent, and that's probably the worst part.
This is just what happens when you trend chase instead of making something that's timeless.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. Maybe they will say beta coming soon. Then we'll get to try it. And I was like, oh god, they had something here. That's like
On
the only
February 29th,
Yeah.
28th, Frank.
29th, yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it's like it's disappointing, and I feel like that's that sentiment of indifference is kind of like colors the state of play in a way. Like go bringing this back to it. Like they made a point of showcasing this, and unlike Hogwarts Legacy, when they dedicated a solo state of play for that, actually like showed me that there was more to that Hogwarts Legacy than I initially thought there was going to be last year. This one didn't move the needle. I feel like if you were skeptical for this, like you are remaining, like you're forever remaining skeptical. If you were excited for this, you knowing what this was, because we technically sort of known what this was since like since it was announced back at DC Fandom 2020. Maybe like you can still have some excitement, or if you're like someone that, if I can like remove my DC biases as someone that can't find enjoyment out of live service games, it's like there's enough there that I'm like, yeah, they're attempting to do one of those. I hate my life right now. God damn it.
Nah, you're all good. You're all good. It's just, it's one of those things to where I'm like, WB obviously saw something that was that they thought was going to be a timeless trend that was going to last them in this next generation, because they did it with Gotham Knights, and they did it obviously with the Suicide Squad. So they really went hard and hammered in with it, and it's one of those things to where like I've never seen a studio quite go this hard as far as like trend riding, and it's almost a shame because like Rocksteady used to be a trendsetter, in the gaming space. Like they made the Arkham series, which basically, catapulted what we thought about like open world stealth games, about action adventure games. It brought it was the new wave of licensed games as well. Like licensed games are on death's door, so to speak. And it kind of brought that into full play. So
ironically, today there was a Warner Bros. Discovery earnings call.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's why this Suicide Squad game was shown today. Like,
I mean, the earnings call probably was a lot of good news, because Hogwarts Legacy sold gangbusters.
12 million copies already.
Yeah, so I'm like, Hogwarts Legacy did so well to where like there's not a whole lot that screams like, oh, this is a cause
they
for
reached
concern.
the month sales of Elden Ring, because Elden Ring was the 12 million after like a month. They got that in 2 weeks.
Don't underestimate that Harry Potter power.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That is those are sleeper agents masquerading as 30 and 40-year-olds now that came out of the woodwork for that game. Dude, you have like an entire Noah's Ark situation going on in there. All I'm saying. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's, gosh, Harry Potter, I'm telling you. So this is there's no way they're going to touch those kind of sales. There's no way they're going to touch that kind of critical acclaim. Even with the controversy around it, the fact that Hogwarts Legacy is like practically untouched commercial.
And this is clear as day. Example.
Yeah.
Hate campaigns that condemn people for doing stuff. This is the results. This is the result of spite.
So if you're an investor right now, you see Hogwarts Legacy, you see how much it sold, and then you see the reception of Gotham Knights, how much it kind of fell on its face. You look at Suicide Squad. That Suicide Squad to investors is probably like, this is making a break for this wave of Warner Brothers, because like we now have 12 million samples of what kind of game works for us commercially, and
not only that, no live service.
Yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy, it's an honest to goodness single player RPG.
And that's my point. I'm like, if you're an investor at this point, like if that game, if the Suicide Squad comes out, it has to come out swinging, and it really has to. It can't come out 6 out of 10s because that won't help word of mouth. It can't come out 5 out of 10s, that won't help word of mouth. And then it also has
even
to
a 7 out of 10 would be disastrous for Rocksteady. That was giving us 9-10 out of 10s. With their 3 games.
Yeah, and then commercially, if that game does not sell well and not like have a roster to where it continues that sales trend like month over month, to where like if it can lose trends, but it can't be one of those things to where like it has a good first month and then a 90% drop.
What was interesting was that Gotham Knights sold well. In the last 3 months of the year, when the game was on retail, it sold really well. Of course it would. It has Batman association to it. So that's sold
Yeah.
a name that got to sell a name alone. So
And then it was
Squad-
discounts though too.
but still, it's like sales are sales. So
Yeah.
So and that's the thing. Like, he made a bunch of its sales before the discounts in August. In October, it was like in the top 5 best-selling games that month when Call of Duty had already launched. Also, so just to kind of give an idea, Suicide Squad is like. Here's the thing. I love James Gunn's Suicide Squad. That bombed at the box office. So the Suicide Squad name, I don't think carries like push. It's gonna be like something like, that's a must buy. I feel like them adding the Kill the Justice League was them acknowledging that a Suicide Squad game by itself is just not gonna sell. And I don't even think like the idea of like, oh yeah, we're a game where you're gonna kill the heroes you wanted to play in your game is gonna even like move the needle sales wise. Like, the only way I see that is this game is a critical darling. It shocks us like when it comes out, and word of mouth builds up of like, no, like, don't worry, it's like, yeah, it may look like one of those, but no, it's like shockingly good. It's like, that's the only way that I think this has a prayer. By the way, Mortal Kombat 12 confirmed for this year.
Oh, that's dope. I will say, I will push back a little bit. It's like, I think the genre is what's going to throw a lot of people off, because I think there are tons of examples to where like playing as a villain would have been okay, but imagine if we were to hunt down, like, if we were Harley Quinn and we were hunting down like the Bat family in Gotham, and they made it to where it was almost like a Grand Theft Auto style open world, to where you were playing as Harley Quinn. I think a lot of people would have ate that up. But Mortal Kombat's exciting, by the way. I mean, this is the year of fighting games, it seems like. Tekken.
Yeah, Tekken's still not confirmed for this year. That's hope. That's the hope that it may.
It does. Yeah. My gosh. Anyway,
dude, that would be the year of the fighting games and the year of the license.
Yeah.
Like for real, it's like the way that this year is like turning out to be like the year of either remakes, licensed products, and now fighting games is like an interesting way for it to like all shake up.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's like, I wish I was more excited. That's the thing. I'm disappointed I'm not more excited for Suicide Squad, because I just want more superhero games. Like, especially now that we're getting like the actual adaptations of comics. Kind of like what I was sort of mentioning last week when I mentioned that I was playing Infamous. Like, Infamous was what we had because it was like we weren't getting like proper video games like of adaptations of comics. So we got a really great superhero game that was just an original property. And now we're at the point where like people are seeing the value of doing really great games with like actual properties that we know exist in comics and movies and things like that. And yeah, it's just sad. So good thing we have an arrangement, Paul. So
I have a question before we go. Like, what was your game of the show?
Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay.
Like, easy.
What about you, Paul?
I think that might actually be mine as well, because that was a game that I was legitimately excited for previously, but then got really disappointed when it was on PC only. So finding out that it's a PS5 game, I went, oh shoot, that's going to be really good, especially if we can get that one day on like a PlayStation Extra or something.
That could be cool. Unless it's like, I've heard really amazing things, Paul. Like, we got an arrangement for a reason. So
I think Tachia might be my favorite game that was shown. I think everything they showed about that game looked very premium. Yeah,
that one to me, I'll play it when it's definitely one that I will definitely play, since it's gonna be an extra. So it's definitely check it out, like just like I did Stray.
That's good motivation for sure.
And Humanity, like, just for how much I love Tetris Effect, it's like an honorable mention in a way. It's not like, I don't buy as much with this kind of puzzle like I just do like a Tetris that can just be endlessly addicting. And the way that game just synergizes, like the music with every time that you like cut the lines of Tetris, like you're completing levels, is just so like transcendental. So, but it was cool that they're doing that kind of game, and they're still partnering with them. And if I had VR, I wouldn't say I would be super excited with what they've shown, but I would be glad to know that there's things coming. It now depends. It now depends on.
It's a good expansion of what's possible on VR.
Yeah, and to be fair, they have like 40 games at launch with VR. It's like, I can't imagine you get to buy all of them. So it's like they really stack the library. So right now it's just how they're gonna curate it moving forward. But yeah, it's like on paper it's like not a bad state of play, but definitely the weakest of the last 3 we've gotten from the state of play. Like,
That's true. One thing I guess I don't want to cut you off on that, but it's almost because all 3 of us are not big VR people, but if you are a VR person, that would definitely change where you would rank these 3, I think, because the 40 games for VR2, the kind of stuff that they showed you of what's available, the optional showcase on a few other games on top of the ones that they already said.
Resident Evil 4 has VR.
Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 8 also, like just all of it, honestly. I feel like that would easily ratchet it up for whatever it is, and just because none of the 3 of us are really that interested, we're kind of discounting that side of it.
Yeah,
but
and unfortunately we have to speak from that perspective also, because not everyone's gonna buy this machine right now, not at this price. So.
I mean, we mentioned the 40 games at VR, and I think that's a really cool lineup, but I do want to push back that a lot of those games are PSVR 1 games.
Yeah,
that
it's like re-releases. It's like re-releases.
That you have to pay for again because it's not backwards compatible.
Are they not upgrades?
There's a few that are free upgrades or free modes, like Resident Evil 8 and Gran Turismo 7.
Okay,
but
so
like,
but
Moss Book 1 and 2 is like, you have to rebuy them. They're like they're like remasters, basically. They're like a remaster that you're paying for.
It does kind of take some of the excitement out of that idea of it, where it's like, I was kind of hoping it would be, oh, you own this on VR, you can have this on VR too, or like, the $10 upcharge that they were doing.
No, it's like Nintendo.
No, but they're doing the $10 upcharge for Tetris Effect.
Yeah.
They're doing like for Tetris, but Tetris Effect is
that
like
should
legit.
Come free on your phone, my guy.
It really should.
No, but that's the thing. Like, yes, but the work they do to Tetris Effect is like it's worth paying for. It's like that because it's an incredibly beautiful game. Also, like in its effects.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like you have to. If you had Iron Man VR, you got to pay for it all over again. Batman VR, got to pay for it all over again. Like Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, got to pay for it all over again. So I mean, it kind of takes that wind out.
The Walking Dead never came out to PSVR 1, so Saints and Sinners is gonna be like a
bad example.
It's gonna be like a full original release on VR 2. But the problem with them doing VR 1 to VR 2 is the controls they use. Like the control, I've seen the controls of VR2 versus the PlayStation Move. The Move had an extra button that the VR2 controllers don't have. The Move button, a lot of those games, because if you had the PlayStation Move, it had the square, circle, X and triangle, like to the sides, and a big Move button here on top of the trigger you had at the back. That Move button doesn't exist on the VR2 controller. So
probably
that's why
just because it's unnecessary, I would think.
Yeah, that's what. But a lot of the games, when they were making PSVR 1 games, they were made with the knowledge that the PlayStation Move was the remote. Okay, so they completely redesigned the controller, so that's why they're not backwards compatible. So that sucks. That's the reason why it is not backwards compatible.
Especially since that's just button mapping at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
That does kind of suck. They didn't have some other button that would work alongside that, but also I'm gonna have trouble defending the PlayStation Move controller at all, considering it was just repurposed from PS3.
It was like all the PS Moves that they didn't get to sell when they tried to do the PS
whatever
Move.
It's probably an improvement. It just sucks that all of those purchases had to suffer for that to happen.
And that's what sucks. And that's what sucks. But I've heard the hardware's amazing. I've heard legit like the improvements done to the VR2 is like it's way lighter in the face, which is insane because the VR1 was already light by itself. They made it lighter.
And these games are $50.
Yeah. So
I was like, I was shocked because I was like, okay, maybe they're like $20 or $30. I'm like, that's $50. Oh.
Horizon Call of the Mountain is $59.99, and
many of them are very short.
Yeah. And the worst part about Horizon Call of the Mountain is that was the showcase game that they were trying to push the VR unit with. In fact, it's the only game that comes in bundled in, and it's the most disappointing one based on reviews. That sucks.
See, I'm like, you're making me rebuy this game, and you're charging me another $50. That kind of burns me.
For real.
Yes. VR is going to be interesting because now that we know that it's there, at Sony will have to keep supporting it. So it means that every showcase we watch, we're going to have a section in every state of play where we're like, okay, just move along, just like move it along. To be fair, that's how they treated the VR stuff, and I appreciated it.
Yeah, it was very zippy.
I hope because they have to acknowledge it's like that's just gonna be a niche side of the market for them. It's like they have to appease the 32 million PS5 owners. They're ready to release it. They have sold that many PS5s, and now the thing is well available. So they have to like appease the ones that are just only console. So
do you almost wish they would have just did a separate show for VR?
I kind of wish, but at the same time, it's like we know Sony in that time that they barely speak around this, like it's like you gotta take what you can get. It's just that unfortunate that to me is like this state of play was like after me championing saying that now the state of plays have gotten better. Now we're going back to the downswing, but I feel that's gonna happen if they're actually gonna do a showcase. I think that's the existence of them doing showcases on top of state of plays kind of like mutes the state of plays, unfortunately. So last year when there was no showcase, the state of plays got better. So they gotta pick a lane.
And so Goodbye Volcano High is like, besides that, and what was the other game? What was the game where you're playing as like a guy? You kind of look like you're a butler. It almost looked like it was kind of like an older game where you were older style, kind of like a older art style. You were
today.
No, it's previous. I think it was called The Devil in Me. No,
Little Devil Inside.
Little Devil Inside.
Okay.
I think
the game that never comes out.
Yeah, so like other than Volcano High, I think Little Devil Inside is like the last game that was shown off with the PS5 whenever it was first
in 2020. Yeah, all of that has been shown. Like, if we go back to that June 2020 showcase, it's like all of it is out. Like even Forspoken was there.
Yeah, so I'm like, now it's just we're just waiting on Little Devil Inside now. And
I think we're gonna be waiting for a long time for that one too, because if it didn't come out by now with all of the crazy levels of Kickstarter money that it got put into it, something really bad is going on in that studio, which hurts my soul. But apparently that's the way of
indie
Kickstarters,
and that's the way of indie gaming. You know that real well, Paul.
That I do.
How long? It's a full year almost of delay since like its original planned launch, right?
It was planned to launch in like 2018
April
or something.
Oh shoot, long ago?
It was before it was even showcased with PlayStation. It had its full Kickstarter thing. It met all of it, beyond it, and then it was like,
I was talking about your game. I thought I was talking about
my game.
Yeah, yours is like a year delay.
The one that I was contracted for. That's about an entire year. You're absolutely right, and it should be coming out pretty soon. But it's just one of those cases where it's one guy doing all the coding, and he has no idea of how much time coding takes until he's already like 6 months into it. So hopefully that's pretty soon.
Yeah. So now we wait to June. Let's see what they have. Let's see, like Sony gotta like give us the next wave of PS5 stuff now. It's like we gotta know beyond what's just Spider-Man.
I will say though, I'm glad that there's so many good games between now and June though.
Yeah, it's a good year.
It really is. Yeah,
really good.
Really, really, really good year. It's like it's feeling right. It's like I'm looking at the state of play is not with like a hunger of like I need to know more. It's just more like let's see if there's what could be like for the far future that we could look at. But we're not necessarily starving at this point. Like there's so many. Like half of this year is just gonna be insane, just all the way until June. And I can't wait unless the delays start happening. But I'm feeling more confident. It's happening less and less times. Only a big one, Jedi Survivor. But then for what we've been seeing with the IGN first, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad they got the 6 weeks because now it looks like it has the money that Jedi Fallen Order didn't. So, I mean, while I can still play Hogwarts Legacy, that I am enjoying very, very, very much. So sad for Atomic Heart though, but I'll leave that for next week's episode. So, Paul, and we are not doing the game releases right now because this is such an off kilter show. Just know that Destiny comes out next week. That's all you need to know. So we're gonna go back to normal schedule programming with just Sebastion next week. So Paul, enjoy your packing, and where can people find you?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter and Dork of Art on YouTube whenever I get the ability to post videos of me breaking video games. Sebastion, where can they find you?
Man, they can find me at the Single Player Experience podcast where we talk about all the things you need to know about good single player gaming. Al, what about you? Where can they find you?
They can find me at _Dro_Segovia at Twitter. They can find me at Segovia on Hive. They can find me at Alejandro Segovia 93 on Instagram, and my written content at thecriticalcorner.com and seasongaming.com. So, everyone else that got to tune in, we thank you so much for your continued support and listenership, even if you don't interact with us. We'd love to be able to interact with you sometime in the future.
Tell me how wrong I am in the comments. That seems to work at 100% of our engagement.
Yes, when we did the reacts for Destiny, that was awesome. That always people interact to tell you how wrong you are.
Always.
So, but hey, that was our most watched video, so thank you for the views. So everyone, enjoy the rest of the week. The month's almost done, which is crazy. Have a great rest of your weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and remember,
Press X.
Whoop, whoop.
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta la vista, baby.